Yo, for Sabre, hi, NK97 TV. I feel no adrenaline, a pese over subscribe na what me videos in the subsequent videos a bit me the abramo. And I know kwesi there on the 6th March ya na Ghana AD 65th Independence. Ewo Cape Coast. Na Sabre omampani etie ni 19 kakra akọ Dubai. Ansa na obe free Ghana no. Okokasai ewo 66 Independent March Ghana ediye ewo Cape Coast. Na anu na yepese yedi emu ensam kakra ede bremo. Na obia ehu ne ekoso. Ebeka ya be enna kakra ni pinche kakra esisi wo man Ghana mu. Efa enipa bonifo bi ada ne dan nyina omodwene se oman no embo. Enu nti dane da nyina nsɛm ɔmo ne sɛ yɛde ku ɛbɛba ɔman Ghana mu ɛno na ɔman panyin ayi ɔma no ɛde nsɛmpa asoma sɛ yɛmfa ma wɔm obi te sɛ yɛwura Raymond Atubika ne nsɛm bi a na nsɛntɛm ɔkɔkekaeɛ ɛfa ku ho nsɛm ɛnam sɛ the state of economy a ɛma Ghana no sɛ ɛyɛ atente apansam nanso yɛwɔ gyidie sɛ yɛbɛtumi ayɛyie enya Ghana nkoa ana saa ensem we ekoso enti wo behwe a ewiase afa na nyina America, Europe, Britain ni Canada ni hu global nyina no obia atipe nkwa enam COVID-19 a abetansa nipa ekonomu na ma oman biara economy no akofom no saa pepepe na Ghana so yeso ye de no ekofom na Ghana de enam se yenni abotre na eni wotwen akoma ninti no yɛpɛsɛ yɛfa akwati kwan bi ɛfa so na yɛtimi di etu aban egu na aban no animu egu ase nanso Akufo-Addo ɛde nsɛmpa ɛde ama mu sɛ hwɛ ɛna obia antimi anya na adwene sɛ ɔbɛfa ɔman Ghana no mu nanso Ghana de ɛyɛ krado obi biara ɔbɛyɛ na adwene sɛ ɔbɛ ma Ghana akɔ ne nchi free 19 bra kromambre so ebesu mpempensue a ku ya nyemu experience no on tena se ema ku no ebinse mumien kotie omampani Akufo-Addo ni nsem bi a okaye edima ayi mo a omo prese omu ni abotre no omo prese ku ebeba oman Ghana mumien konkotie no.
Before the outbreak of COVID-19, we took the Independence Day celebrations out of Accra. In 2019 to Tamale, capital of the northern region, and in 2020 to Kumasi, capital of the Ashanti region. Both were huge successes. However, because of the rising numbers of COVID infections last year, the celebration was held virtually for the first time in our history. By the grace of Almighty God, the management of the pandemic by government, we currently have a very low active case count, which has permitted these celebrations to take place in Gwe. It has been a captivating event, and I'm very happy to be here and grateful for the cooperation of the traditional authorities, led by the Omahe of the Ogwa traditional area of Saberima Kwesi Ata II, who has been our gracious host. Saberima, Yedawo, any Gwema Asepa. Cape Coast was once the administrative capital of the then colonial Gold Coast. The first Supreme Court was cited in Cape Coast. The first people to gain formal education in our country came from Cape Coast. It is the home of the first primary school, the Philip Kwaku School, established in the 18th century in 1776. It is the home of the first girls' secondary school, Wesley Girls High School, established in 1836. And is the home of the first boys' secondary school, Infansipim School, established 40 years later in 1876. Subsequently, many renowned secondary schools were established in Cape Coast. I doubt if there exists anywhere else in the world a town that has the same concentration of top secondary schools as there is in Cape Coast. Indeed, it's not for nothing that Cape Coast is rightly described as the Athens of Africa. Today is a celebration of our nation's independence, and one region that has epitomized both our association with colonial rule and the ensuing struggle to liberate ourselves from its yoke is the Central region. Indeed, the Portuguese, the earliest Europeans to visit us, first arrived in the Gold Coast in the 15th century, setting up shop in Cape Coast. The years that followed witnessed battles for control of Cape Coast, with the Swedes and the British finally taking over the territory. What ensued in the aftermath of this takeover was the transformation of Cape Coast into a place where our resources, human and natural, were transported. Through the forts and castles dotted along this coastline, our ancestors were sold into slavery in faraway lands and were forcibly engaged. Inevitable that the first momentous steps towards the making of modern independent Ghana began here in Cape Coast in 1897, when the great Ghanaian patriots Jacob Say, J.B. Brown, Joseph Casely Hayford, John Mensah Saba, and their colleagues assembled in the Aborigines Rights Protection Society, situated and managed, through their determination and advocacy, to mobilize public opinion to resist the takeover of our lands by the greedy hands of British imperialism in the Crown Lands Protection Bill, thereby helping us to maintain control of our lands and insulating us from the fate of the sequestration of lands that occurred in southern and eastern Africa, with such unhappy consequences for the indigenous peoples that reverberate till today. Exactly 50 years to the day after the inauguration of the Aborigines Rights Protection Society, on 4th August 1947, the United Gold Coast Convention, UGCC of blessed memory, the nation's first political party, was born in Salt, 50 kilometers from here, to spearhead the battle for freedom and independence. 4 months later, in December 1947, Kwame Nkrumah, soon to assume the leadership of the nationalist movement, returned home upon invitation from his decade-long sojourn abroad to join the convention and take up his responsibilities as its general secretary. 6 months after the launching of the UGCC, the senseless Christians war crossroads shootings and killings on 28 February 1948 by the colonial police of Sergeant Ajete, Corporal Atipo, and Private Odate Lamte, who were part of a group of unarmed ex-servicemen marching peacefully to present their grievances to the colonial government, provoked the wrath of the nation, resulted in countrywide riots, and deepened immeasurably the demand for the independence of our nation. This led to the arrest by the colonial authorities of the UGCC leaders, Joseph Boachi Dankwa, Emmanuel Obeche Bilamti, Edward Akufo-Addo, Ebenezer Akwaje, William Oforiatta, Kwame Nkrumah, the legendary Big Six, who were held responsible for the riots, and to the institution of the Watson Commission, to investigate the circumstances of the riots. The recommendations of the Watson Commission to the British Labour government to Prime Minister Clement Attlee helped construct the path for the attainment of it. These and other events, including the founding of the Convention People's Party and the declaration of positive action, led to the emergence of Kwame Nkrumah as the leader of the nationalist movement in succession to David Dankwa. He led it with verve, and on 6 March 1957, stood at the Old Polo Grounds to make the historic declaration of Ghanaian freedom, for which the Ghanaian people will forever remain in his debt. I've recounted a short but significant portion of our nation's history and the journey towards independence to reinforce the importance of the theme of this year's celebration: working together, bouncing back together. This theme imposes a duty on all of us to embrace the essence of what it means to be a Ghanaian and to love Ghana. Our forebears worked together with the belief that Ghana, once free and independent, could make her own unique contribution to the growth of world civilization and be able to generate wealth and prosperity for the masses of her people. They put away ethnic, political, and religious affiliations and came together to work for the liberation of the Gold Coast from colonial and imperial domination. Each one of them contributed their quota towards the free, independent Ghana in which we now live. All of us gathered here, and millions out there, inside our borders and outside, share this love for the place we call home. What is that ultimate patriotism? Most people will say, my country, right or wrong. In fact, as the distinguished orator and Senator Carl Schultz elaborated in the 19th century, my country, right or wrong. If right, to be kept right, and if wrong, to be set right. When we make wrong choices, we must act to set things right. When those put in charge of affairs, of running affairs, get it wrong, we must have the courage to say so. That is our patriotic duty and calling. But we must not at any given opportunity run down our nations merely simply because we can, or to achieve a narrow parochial and partisan interest. The democratic system of governance operates acknowledges that we're bound to have differences of opinion on the way forward for our nation. We must, however, recognize that the expression of those diverse views should not undermine the fundamental unity we need to forge to advance the cause of our nation. In the words of our unofficial national anthem, composed by the legendary Ephraim Amu, Edrume Enewo Soso, Siebeyebi Atwaso. Fellow Ghanaians, for the last 2 years, we have seen as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, the disruption of the global supply chain and the global financial system, the opening up of a huge funding gap in virtually all countries, the erosion of fiscal space, the widening of the fiscal deficit, and increased public debt levelings. Simply put, there are difficulties everywhere in the world. We're seeing increasing global freight rates, rising crude oil prices, which means rising fuel prices, rising costs of items on the market as a result of inflationary pressures, and the depreciation of currencies. And as much as these are happening in all countries around the world, the government of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has not thrown up its hands in despair. We're not looking for the easy way out. We're determined to become even more self-reliant and in the process find Ghanaian solutions to Ghanaian problems. As already we have made considerable progress towards this end. Today, Ghana is a net exporter of foodstuffs, thanks to the success of the program for Planting for Food and Jobs. Free senior high school is ensuring money or the lack of it is no longer a barrier towards the attainment of a minimum of senior high school education for every Ghanaian child, an important tool for the development of our nation. We're processing more of our cocoa in Ghana than at any other time in our history. The One District, One Factory initiative, which has seen the ongoing construction of 278 factories across the country, 106 completed, is part of the foundation on which we're building a comprehensive industrialization program inspired by the development of strategic anchor industries, such as the emerging automotive industry and the coordinating exploitation of our bauxite and iron resources. We have opened up this country through the constructions of roads more than any other government has in the history of the Fourth Republic. Our efforts at digitization are improving transparency, accountability, and efficiency in the public sector and helping to accelerate the growth of our economy. Fellow Ghanaians, these and more are what we have used tax revenues for over the last 5 years. In all your communities, villages, towns, constituencies, and regions, you've seen your taxes at work, whether it is the construction of a classroom block, a clinic, a small town water facility, a factory, or a road. And we will continue down this path. I will not renege on my pledge to help create a progressive and prosperous Ghana. I, however, cannot do this alone. I need the backing of each and every one of you if we are to bounce back together and build a Ghana beyond aid. There is one matter of overriding significance which we can no longer ignore. That is the pressing need to increase dramatically our domestic resource mobilization and reduce and eliminate our dependence on foreign savings. Today, there's no question but that the most important thing on most people's minds is the need for accelerated national development to improve living standards and generate jobs for the mass of the people, especially the youth. On that question, we are all agreed. However, not everyone is ready to take the next step to the recognition that accelerated national development can best take place with a considerable increase in revenue mobilization. And very few will then take the next further step to accept that revenue mobilization will happen principally through taxation. In our society, we have unfortunately not yet reached the stage of universal acceptance of taxation as a matter of public good. But truth be told, our tax to GDP ratio of 12.2% compares unfavorably with our peers the world over. Less than 10% of the Ghanaian population, i.e. 2.4 million people, carry the direct tax burden of 0.8 million people. The Asian tigers whom we envy and emulate and want to emulate finance their rapid development from their own savings. We need to do the same and alter our fiscal profile. We must move Ghana to a situation beyond aid. That is a Ghana which is no longer dependent on the benevolence or charity of foreign taxpayers and donors for the management of our public finances. It is doable. We want to transform Ghana into a world-class economic hub which will benefit every single Ghanaian. On this day, when we're gathered to celebrate 65 years of freedom and independence, let us continue to pay homage to those who dare to dream of a diverse nation made up of different peoples. And let us continue to give praise, as we should, to those who made huge sacrifices to make possible 6 March 1957. Above all, let us guard jealously the peace and stability we are enjoying. There are some restless spirits amongst us who, seeking to exploit the current difficulties confronting the nation, claim to have lost confidence in our democratic system to effect a peaceful constitutional change in the governance of our state. Either the absence of faith in the prospects of a democratic alternative to the current government, or their impatience to wield executive authority are the factors driving their appetite for the shortcut of military intervention. Whatever be the case, they seem ready to jeopardize the hard-won reputation of our country as a beacon of democracy and stability in Africa, and indeed in the world, in order to gratify their personal ambitions which show little or no respect for the capacity of the Ghanaian people to change, when necessary, their government peacefully through the ballot box, something they have done on 3 separate occasions in the 29-year life of the Fourth Republic. The great majority of us who are committed to democratic values and democratic institutions will continue to resist the claims of these adventurers and employ all legitimate means in democracy to maintain our free, open system of governance, which is respectful of human rights, the rule of law, and the principles of democratic accountability. Ghana deserves to put the initial decades of perhaps understandable turbulence and instability in her history firmly behind her, to enable the development of our nation to proceed in conditions of freedom, order, peace, and stability, which have been the happy hallmarks of the Fourth Republic. West Africa is also currently faced with a worsening security situation in the Sahel, with recurring terrorist attacks which are moving gradually southwards in the region towards the coastal states. All our efforts at transforming the Ghanaian economy and putting our nation onto the path of progress and prosperity will be rendered futile if we are unable to secure our borders and give you, the Ghanaian people, the serenity to go about your daily activities in an atmosphere of peace and security.
Yo, abusuafo weye omampanyi nana adodankwa Akufo-Addo ene yete ni kasaye na ensem no ne mepese meka ewo mu na mebode tofa ama atiefo nso munyina maso eti bi ene se omampanyi kasa no okasa kire oman ne se adrumi ne wo ensoso se ebeye bi atoaso na emu na o kire yense ahohom boni bi a omode omompe ne yie ewo oman Ghana mu a dani dan nyina omon kire aniso ewonia aban anase ono na aban eye anase aban bi ebetena so a obeye o kire yense Ghana kabi mami kabi abamuo no a ekoso no eye 4 years na aye abato ene edi yi oman panyi bi anase aban bi efri so enye aban intugo enti omo a omo frɛ se yemma aban tuguo sojafo emremu emametu aban gu no o kyerɛm se oman no aye krado twɛn wom enu nti wose yebesi anokwan wose oyusu brofo bi wose we will resist na ye deploy the legitimate means yebetimi ade resist the oppressors and said military and coup protest no enti weni nsɛm a ɛkɔ ɛde ama yɛwura bi te sɛ Raymond Atuguba ɛne Oliver Becker enti no ɛne ni NDC fo a ɛnɛ ɔma sorry dendenden a ɔmo kasa editia ɔman panyin ɛne ni nnwuma di a odie yɛnyina yɛnyɛ krado ne yɛntimi mmoa ɔman panyin wɔ se onu ko ntimi nyɛ adwuma no ɛno nti no ohia obi bia mmoa sɛ obɛyɛ a obɛboa ne nyina yɛtimi akyekyere ɔman no efirima mo na ka sɛ adumi ne wo nso ɛsoso sɛ ebɛyɛ ebi ato aso ɛno ne nsɛm a ɔman panyin ebra na o kasa ɛwɔ yɛn independence 6 March independence 65th independence no nsɛm we ɛne nsɛm a keka ho bi ɛna ɛwɔ so woba video so a wobɛnya ate emu nsɛm ni nyinaa kɔ NK97 TV ɛhɔ ɛna wobɛnya saa nsɛm we nyinaa ɛtie ɔmampani antena se after 6 March no on the 7th ɔmampani ebu na ketem ɔne delegation ɛkɔ Dubai ni nyinaa ɛyɛ sɛ ɔmampani ɛyɛ nipa bi a da ne da nyinaa ɔdwene Ghana foɔ ho ɛno na yɛ a ne yɛ so yɛhu saa deɛ no a ɛyɛ fɛ na yɛ de ne so yɛpɛsɛ yɛbɔ na chidom yɛde yɛ fidie ɛbɛboa no na bibi biara ɛwɔ sɛ ɔyɛ no ɔno so atimi ayɛ dɛ ayɛ ɛno nti ɛha yɛ NK97 TV ɛyɛ Facebook live wobɛtimi anya no YouTube baabi biara wopɛsɛ wokɔ biara wobɛhu ɛno ase wakɔ akɔkɔhwɛ NK97 TV ɔmampani akɔdu Dubai ɛdeɛ na ɛkɔ so wɔ Dubai wohwɛ mfoni a etwagu ya yɛwura Kennedy ɔka ho bi ɛyɛ delegation ɔde ɔmkɔɛ no ɛyɛ for business purposes ɔmampani atimi abɔ modern ɛde nneɛma pa ɛba ɔman Ghana mu na ɔman Ghana so ayɛ krabɛhwɛ ɛno nti no yɛbɛsrɛ sɛ atiefo ɛbɛyɛ aso na nsɛm a ɔmampani so ɛde kɔto Dubai conference a ɔkɔɛ no ɛyɛ Dubai 2020 ɛna ɔmampani ɛkɔɛ a ɛyɛ Dubai Expo 2020 ɛna ɔmampani ɛkɔɛ na we bi ka ho bi ensɛm bi ɛka ho a mede baba beto edwa na ni nyina ne sɛ yɛbɛka ya yehu sɛ ɔmampani dan nyina otukwan pa nanso ɔyɛ obi a ɔkasa na ɔbra na ɔyɛ opposition na ɔkasa tua ɛnema bi nanso sɛne ɔman na akwakoduru no sɛ yɛ nyina yɛmfa ya no antum ne anhwɛ ammoa ɔman no a ɛbɛyɛ akwansideɛ in terms of your development ɛno nti ɔmampani ɛde ato sɛ yɛma obi biara ɛnyɛ krado sɛ yɛbɛboa na ɔman no nkɔsoɔ ne nkyekyereɛ no ayɛ nkɔsoɔ paa na yɛbɛhwɛ a nansan yɛ na opposition ɛtaaka sɛ ɔmampani pa kwantuo dodo otu kwan so a na ɔkɔfa private jet ɛyɛ sika twitwiri die bɛyɛ 3.3 billion US dollars ɛna odi tua ɛho ka nanso me de me minim no sɛ ɔmampani otu kwan so a ɔde bibi so ba fie sabi mpraduasa wo abusuapani bi na sɛ otimi bɔ modin ɛde bibi ɛboa abusua no ɛma ne yɛ nkoso a saa abusuapani no ya na yɛ boa no ɛma ne dwumadie nso ɛyɛ nkoso enti sɛ ɔmampani timi tu kwan no timi de bibi papa ba de a befi sɛ na kwantuo no ɛne ho kabɔdeɛ kabede ka ɛmfa ho yɛnyina ti ɔman mu a yehu mahama na kwantuo yehu atamils akwantuo yehu yewura kufuo akwantuo JJ Rollins na kwantuo ni nyina ɛyɛ ɔman no ho yiedie ɛna ɛyɛ yi nanso wo opposition na wo kasa wo twumano a na wo ka ne opesa oga enso betena abanya ne so a ne ɛmfata ne ne ensa nyina mudi ɛde kyerɛ yɛ we ni ensɛm a ɛkɔso wɔ ɔman Ghana mu ɛnam so ma Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa a wɔyɛ NDC ni foreign affairs shadow minister ɔno so de nano atum abɔ Akufo Addo aba so sɛ ne a yɛ papa yi ayɛ so afa ewiemhyɛn a ɛnyɛ private no ayɛ commercial no wabɔ na baso fi sɛ Akufo Addo ɔdwene ne manfoɔ ho ɛno nti sabre a wotie yɛn yɛ pɛsɛ kyerɛ sɛ ɛbrɛ Akufo Addo ɔkɔ Dubai no wanfa private of commercial ɛno nti mo ka ya mususum ka because papa no the near fee na me fe sɛ ɛyɛ ade a obetimi aboa ɔman no pa enti momie Momienye careful ewo the way a yesifa esopa ye man panyi na enye enkoso no. Momienye careful pa na bibia entimi enkoso enfama Nana Addo dankwa akufu Addo. Sabre moye krada momientie Nana Addo odu Dubai no ensam so a okokan wo ho.
Excellency Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Vice President and Prime Minister of the United Arab Emirates, the Government of the United Arab Emirates, and the Expo 2020 Dubai Organizing Committee for giving Ghana this opportunity to showcase the trade and investment opportunities available in our country. 2 days ago, on Sunday, 6th March, Ghana celebrated her 65th independence anniversary. We take honor in the fact that Ghana was the first country in sub-Saharan Africa to free herself from colonial rule. Thereafter, took the lead in the liberation of the African continent from the forces of colonialism and imperialism. For a plethora of reasons,
Abusiafo enfan cheyen efise recording no baby a recording na dede ewo ho kakra enti nia mo betibia no montema so na montie ye edamase.
Economic growth and prosperity that we had anticipated would follow political liberation did not materialize, even though we have been blessed with abundant resources by the Almighty. We have, however, moved away from the earlier uncertainties clouding our path towards progress and prosperity. The last 29 years of democratic governance in the Fourth Republic have generally been the period of the greatest economic growth in our history. Unfortunately, it has not been consistent. And with our country at age 65, we are determined that it is time to get it right in a sustainable manner. Our engagement at the Expo seemed an opportunity because we're a nation of unquestionably attractive opportunity.
Absolutely.
Indeed, prior to the onset of COVID-19, Ghana in 2017, 2018, and 2019, that is during my first term in office, recorded annual average GDP growth rates of 7%, making our economy one of the fastest growing in the world at the time. At the height of the pandemic in 2020, we're indeed one of the few countries to record positive growth. Through our 100 billion CD economic recovery program, dubbed the Ghana Cares or Bantampa program, the economy grew at a provisional 5.2% the first 3 quarters of 2021, with a projected growth rate of 5.6% for 2021. We appear to be on the path of sustained economic recovery. We still nevertheless have some important challenges. So we see these challenges as opportunities which serve as catalysts for growth and the realization of government's trust.
Before I even make my first cut on site, I make sure.
Yo, na omanpanyi kasa na niema bi ebetwa mu. Meyankoso na yenti omanpanyi.
And the realization of government's transformational agenda. This agenda is hinged primarily on creating space for the private sector to thrive, thereby growing the jobs that our young people need. Our industrial transformation through our policies of one district, one factory, and the development of strategic anchor industries, such as the emerging automotive industry, and the coordinated exploitation of our significant bauxite and iron ore deposits, our agricultural expansion through the program for planting for food and jobs, targeted infrastructural development, especially of our roads and railways, and promoting access to digital technology are serving as the main avenues for job creation. We've been successful in removing some of the constraints of Ghanaian life that have been sources of frustration in conducting business. As part of the process of formalizing the economy, we have, amongst others, implemented a digital property addressing system, issued biometric national identification cards to residents this year, so that every resident will have a unique identification number and ensure paperless transactions at our ports. Today, we are the safest country in West Africa. We are the largest recipient of foreign direct investment in West Africa. We are ranked third in the Ease of Doing Business Index in West Africa. We are the new commercial capital of Africa by virtue of our hosting of the Secretariat of the African Continental Free Trade Area. We are the second largest cocoa producer in the world. We are the largest producer of gold in Africa. We're endowed with considerable deposits of bauxite, iron ore, manganese, lithium, oil and gas, diamonds, and timber. And we're geographically closer than any other country to the center of the planet. Woo-hoo! We are a country where investments are secure and protected under a governance system where an independent judiciary upholds the rule of law and respect for private property rights. Ghana is ready for business.
Yes, we are.
Ghana is a land of opportunity for private capital.
Absolutely.
It has taken it upon herself to build a business-friendly economy that would enable her to get to the stage where she will help her build an optimistic, self-confident, and prosperous nation. I invite all of you to visit the Ghana Pavilion, the Opportunity District, for a taste of Ghana's hospitality, characterized by the nutritious chocolate made from Ghana's premium cocoa, the display of Ghana's rich socio-cultural heritage, and the exploration of the numerous investment opportunities. It is an exciting time for us, and we welcome you to join us in this journey as we are determined to deepen the already warm relations that exist between our two countries. And we once again reiterate our gratitude for the opportunity to come here to showcase our country at this magnificent Expo Dubai 2020. I thank you.
Yo, Oman Penny na yate na no disem ewo Dubai. Ebra na one omo onya akwanya na one omo eche ensem. Na poso metimi aka afa ne Oman Penny kan ho se. Oman Penny ehwe se obibia anase Dubai ene eskafo ewo wiase nyina business partners bia ewo wiase nyina ebetimi aba Ghana. Ade ba ko de tu dwa mani je kakra ere security wose yen judicial system and your security no is so protective and obasa oba be adwumaso anaba ye business a oman Ghana ebebo ho ban na ye judicial system no so no eye adwuma sabe edi no ho enyo obi na ekire omo be bia omonfa kora enhye ebon mu na oye se Ghana ya ready ya krado se ye be ye business yene obi beto nkase aye adwumaden na ye nyina yetimi ema oban Ghana eni emufo nyina no aye den enya eso emfaso ebra na okasa no obo ebra na okasa fa ye 6 March yi ho ene de ye nyina ya te ho empenkwa ane entinsa eno ntino omanpanyi ama ewiase nyina ati se oban Ghana ye baabi a obetimi adidwa na uwo asumdua so a obetimi de adudwa bibi so to so a ye judicial system no so eye adwuma we ni ensam a omanpanyi koda na di omanpanyi akokoton Ghana ama wiase nyina ye hwɛ sɛ emu intasino no ebeba ye benya emu emfasoɔ omanpanyi ko ye ɔde na chigya yewura Mamudu Bawumia doctor ɔde na chi na egya no ɔna ye vice president ema Ghana na ɛno nso ebra wokɔ ɔne dedication na wohwɛ mfoni a yewura Kennedy Japan akompreko ɔno so eka ho saa na yenya eno entiye yensi enemu no ne ɔde baaye eno no erinti no omanpanyi ebeba Ghana back on the 10th ene ye 8 nti obeda obehome obedwodwo no ho na dua ne obedi de menua mamo fa nya asem politics nti no da ne da nyina mo ye niema emfata na ense dwumadi a wokɔ ya wokɔkodie no ahomfasoɔ ena ɛwɔ sɛ yenum nyina ɛkyɛ na ɛboa ye nyinara yɛda ase yɛda omanpanyi ase yɛda omanpanyi ase sɛ ɔsɔre a panyi te sɛ no wanyini ni mpɛmpɛnso baabi anka waduri nka ɔsɔre a na wada nso da nyina omanpanyi sɔre a ɔbɔ ɔman no ho ban ɔdwene ɔman no nkankɔ youth ɛwɔ mu ɔdwene ɔmo ho ɛboa sɛ ɔman no ɛbɛyɛ nkɔsoɔ ɛde ama Ghana ɛne enchirima enti yɛbɛsrɛ ɛyɛ NDC foɔ sɛ motum futuro egu enipa ani no momyɛnka no korɛ efisa mo pɛn so na covid eni ho nanso yɛda asum mu throughout mahama time nyinaa yɛda asum mu na ontimi enye ne yesa woyɛ ye nyinaa okokosi school kura no kosisi esi nwuram ene omanpanyi ba enso so wagya